Portability versus platform specific design. What is that we are going to cover it here? Before we get into portability versus or that comparison, let us understand portability, right? So consider a case wherein you have development, test, non-prod and prod environment, and non-prod could be anything. Uh, all of those environment has got some software in it. What you do is you write your code, you deploy your application into the environment for your unit testing. You deploy your application into test environment for integration testing, integration with other applications. You move it to the non-prod environment, and then you move it to the prod environment. So for your application or your code to run it, if you take a typical example of the Quartz product, right, SAP or any other software, or um, the software which runs for your large enterprises, you have multiple environments, and you take the code and you move the code from one environment to another environment based on your release cycle. Okay, and that is what the release management part of it. The portability aspect of it is how portable your application is to take from one environment to another environment without changing anything in the foundation or the configuration files. And that is the concept of portability, right? So you move your applications to one environment to another environment without any dependencies, or how you can reduce that particular dependencies. And majority of those aspect you need to manage it inside your configuration file. So if you look at the dependencies, either you take the configuration file, you build different configuration file for different environment, you change or tweak that configuration file so that you can release it in different environment. So that is the portability. You need to look at the how you can reduce or minimize your release cycles when you take your application from one environment to another, when you take your code from one environment to another environment. If you look at containers in the modern era, that you build a container, that container will run in your development environment, same as maybe your laptop, same as maybe in your test environment, and your performance or non-prod environment or prod environment. There is no dependency as such. That's the power of container you can think of, right? Docker containers. Platform specific design, you are looking at SAP as a software, right? And when you want to change something as a configuration file, or you want to build the code on top of whatever SAP software is there, maybe any of their configuration file or the module, you need to have a specific platform for you to install it or ready for your code deployment. But at the same time, it is not going to run as seamlessly as it if you look at the container applications. And that is where it differentiate the way you write a code in, say, containers as a specific independent code, or the containers, than your platform specific work. If you look at SAP or CRM, right? Which one is the best? Identify your need, right? Because if at all you're using platform specific design, which is SAP as an example, you will have no choice, or you will not be able to choose to a portability version of it, because you are locked to how the FATI software works together, right? And you are very specific to do that, or very specific in design to understand what is best suitable for your need, what are constraints, and what you can do. As an example, we have built some app microservices which will read the data from SAP and make it available for our application, other applications to access it. That is one of the option that you can choose it. But there are things which are dependent on your platform, or if you are using a proprietary software, and you need to make sure that you understand all of it to make your own design, or make a choice between different design options. That's it for this particular lecture, guys. If you have any questions on portability and platform specific design, let me know. We are going to get into details of portability more as a microservices in subsequent lectures. Thank you. Evaluating different services and technologies. Let's go ahead and understand how you can actually choose between different services and what are the foundation of the technologies which you want to have it. Services, if you look at on the Google Cloud Platform, you have Compute Engine, you have Container Engine, you have platform specific, which is App Engine, and you have serverless, right? When do you choose between all those services? That is your um, choice, right? We are going to get into details of which environment you can choose it for a specific need in the next section. But you have multiple choice, and you can deploy either your code in Compute Engine, Container Engine, or very specific in App Engine or serverless environment based on your the design needs. If you look at the technologies, definitely identify your need and the service, that's where you are going to deploy your application, and you need to choose the services which are compatible. As an example, if you want to say use, or if you need to use serverless environment, or you need to use App Engine standard environment, right? You are very limited what programming language you can actually choose it um, for your application. Identify deployment platform, and based on you can actually choose the services. One time backend activities versus, as an example, website, right? It is all depends on how what your application is trying to do. There is no thumb rule as such. For website, you can actually choose Node.js or Java as a backend, or ASP.NET, or whatever, right? .NET framework, whatever. But it is all again depends on how you orchestrate your website as such. It is not a technology choice, but it is looking at what are the plus and minuses of individual technologies, and what is that you want to choose as a foundation, or the infrastructure service or platform service for your application to deploy onto it.